Welcome to the Two Tokens podcast. During these episodes, we will invite guests onto our show and discuss everything token related. You can expect to hear about token business models, the underlying technology stack, token governance, but also more mainstream topics such as NFTs. Does this sound interesting to you? Then make sure you subscribe and keep listening. And now, on to the episode.
Alright, so good afternoon, dear listeners of the Energy podcast from Two Tokens. A new episode with a lot of announcements to be made. So this is fronting an energy expert session that we're hosting September 17th in The Hague. We are then announcing a new series of white papers that are coming up. The executive summary is available now for download on the website. I have some new speakers here, some new partners. So let's first do a round of introduction. So let's first start to my left. Kennard.
Good afternoon. Nice to be here. Thank you. My name is Kennard Brandenburgh. I'm currently CCO of Distro Energy, a subsidiary of the Port of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And we aim to deliver the platform in the Netherlands and abroad to make the sharing and exchange of energy possible between communities, individuals, whoever wants to be part of energy exchange. That's what we bring to the market.
So welcome as a partner to Two Tokens.
Thank you.
And we will elaborate in this podcast on what you're doing and how you're doing it and how we can benefit all from that. And on my other side is Edgar.
Hello, my name is Edgar Kampers and I'm CEO of Hypha Energy. And Hypha Energy is focusing on the governance of energy hubs and energy communities. We want to make them more interesting, more thriving, more interactive, and we want to connect to the communities in a much better way than is happening up till now.
Okay, so my name is Jos Roling. I'm the captain of the energy working group in Two Tokens. And I will be your host for today. So Kennard, Distro Energy, a new party for Two Tokens. What's your origin and how you carved out your offering in the market?
We originate from the Port of Rotterdam with the cooperation of Standard & Poor's. Currently all the shares are owned by the Port of Rotterdam. The idea of Distro was initiated in the Rotterdam area, trying to cope with the idea that electrification would be exceeding and congestion would arise. Well, we don't need a glass bowl to confirm that in the current market. Looking at the current energy system, everything is what you could call stovepipe. You've got one business, one connection, and you buy and sell directly to the wholesale energy market combined with the supplier. Whereas congestion is actually more locally oriented. You've got an area in the network that has congestion issues where you need to cooperate with your peers to be able to cope with that, with the scarcity and capacity. So we actually need some way of connecting peers to each other, enabling the exchange of energy to optimize usage of the grid. And well, really there was not such a platform available also connected to the energy markets and with the granularity needed to match supply and demand on a near real-time basis. So the port decided to just step into that empty spot within the energy market, as is also the part of her role. Invest in a platform to enable this, to see whether the energy market will pick it up. And for now, we're 100% subsidiary of the port, acting on our own, and of course sponsored in connections and introductions wherever the port can, and having a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
Okay. So question. So if you solve that congestion issue, why is it not then solved by the grid operator, who's, I presume, the first task to get a good connection and provide you the energy that you're contracted for?
It's a good question. I think we all have our own responsibility in the total energy system. So the DSO has a responsibility to provide us with enough capacity. But since the extension of capacity takes so much work and is so capital intense, we also need to look at ways to use it more efficiently. And if you look at usage, there's the side of control, which is also a thing the DSOs are looking at. But you also have the side of who does what, how do you incentivize adapting your behavior to the availability of energy. And that's where the role of a DSO, for instance, conflicts, because a DSO is by definition not a commercial party, so incentivizing is a bit difficult. And one way to give people incentives to change behavior is to connect to the energy markets, to the wholesale markets, and provide them with a price that's in their favor if they keep energy local. So that's what we actually do. We try to optimize on the administrative side, connecting to the near real-time level of energy management systems, and try to change the physical behavior there as well, and therefore contribute to the balance in the grid and contribute to the issues and management of the grid done by the DSO.
Okay.
So maybe see us more as an addition and as a partner of the DSO than maybe have a discussion of it should be their responsibility, because to my opinion it's not really fair to just mention one party being responsible, because you could also look at the suppliers, for instance, and business responsible parties. There's a lot of roles in the system already who you could make responsible or blame, but I don't really want to go there, actually.
Any questions, Edgar?
I find what you say highly interesting. I have the idea sometimes that many stakeholders lived under a stone, and that they sort of did not see this coming. And they're also one of the latest sectors that are digitalizing. They could have done this way earlier. So I think we have a role to play here in pilots and in tests where we are currently active. And I expect the DSOs and other parties will change considerably in how they are going to operate, because the way we do it now is impossible. True. The only idea now is that we have more grids and we upgrade them all, and then all the problems are solved. Then we're building huge new power stations, nuclear even, and we think that this is then the solution for a future where we know that we will have energy abundance within 10, 15 years. Anyways, so the big question is, how do we organize ourselves? How do we make sure that we produce the electricity on a local scale and also consume it on a local scale, and make that as dynamic as possible with batteries, heat storage, whatever we need there, as dynamic as possible. And this should include all parties involved, including the end user. And the end user was always at the end of the thing, just as a consumer, had no role to play. With energy communities, this is radically changing. Suddenly, this end user, this consumer, can be a player on that market, and they want to play that role. And of course, this is still for the front runners, but it's changing, and it's changing fast. And I think we are both part of that. And it's a super interesting spectrum.
Right. So and then you said, Kennard, that you are interacting with the energy management systems or building management systems of your clients, or so. In which area is it, and what type of clients allow you to interact with those systems? And is there a conflict? And
Conflicts, not really, because I have a strong belief that you, as a business owner, choose the energy system of your choice. That suits your business best. There's a lot of variety in complexity in the energy management platforms. Having simple steer boxes behind the meter, only curtailing solar systems and maybe including a battery, up to platforms where you can actually manage complete chemical plants and you shouldn't touch from from externally, right? So. The core functionality and core value of the energy management is to manage the energy physically on a location or maybe between locations, but is always aimed to do that within a time frame of 15 minutes, a real-time level. So the switching from market granularity of once per 15 minutes, which could be more frequent, but that's what the current markets do, to near real-time or real-time energy management. That's the key for the energy management systems. Will there be a conflict? Well, challenges to say the least, but I think there's a lot of value in there on a data, on a flexibility angle, and also an invitation, I think, from energy management platform to its DSOs to work together, because there's so much information there and available which the DSOs not yet have, that they could use to control wherever they like within the grid, and the higher grid levels, for instance. Yeah.
Okay, so are you receiving requests already from grid operators to interact and interconnect your data feeds to their operation centers?
No, not. I think the platform of Distro is actually more from their perspective, more on the commercial side, more
Mhm.
on the market side. So for them, it's quite hard to cooperate with us. But where we, in combination with energy management, can actually manage the energy flows in, for instance, a business park. The combination with energy management systems and Distro provides you with a good solution to, to an extent, guarantee that you will not exceed the limits contracted by group contracts, for instance. And that is the basis for the cooperation for DSO with Distro and energy management platforms.
So you will be setting up then different entities for each group of clients to meet their joint
Virtually,
okay.
yeah.
Or virtual power plant setups, or is that
For
too
instance,
far-stretched?
well, you could consider the platform as a virtual power plant to an extent, where virtual is a concept, right?
Mhm.
Is it one street? Is it one area? Is it one cable within the network? One of the things is that if you bound people to work together, you always want to well, it's just as kids being bounded by rules. You always want to look at the other side. You always need to have an escape to the bigger area, and that's also the way Distro organizes microgrids. Which is quite interesting, by the way, because on the transportation level we have no distinction on locality within the current energy market yet. So there's drivers to be included in that system to keep the energy local, preferably local, to manage the usage of the grid locally. And if local is not enough, you need to have an escape to interlocal or wider and connect microgrids. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about the data privacy of all that information that you're collecting
Yeah.
from all those companies?
That's also an interesting one. Preferably, we store only the EAN codes for the energy connection of a customer. And the interesting side is actually the contractual side between a buyer and a seller. And we store every individual transaction, which we do for every individual once every 15 minutes. So there's it's high frequency trading, as we call it. We store every individual transaction on blockchain-based technology, because we also have to believe, as Edgar also said, this in this new energy systems, it's not one party owning the contract. It's actually a contract between a buyer and a seller, and the content should be theirs and open and transparent, available to buyer and the seller. So that's the reason why we initiated using blockchain technology in the first place for the market, and also to have the opening to its tokenization and maybe in the future pay your energy bills by using tokens or blockchain kind of monetized blocks or
So shifting
coins.
to Edgar, right? So Edgar, you're more on the consumer side, on the as well. So and how is the GDPR aspects on these kinds of solutions that you want to play with your platform, with your solution, the middleman?
Yeah, so one of the key elements for us is that the community that is using the energy also owns the assets and also controls them. So we have the widest definition here possible. So the typical example would be an apartment building with one solar roof on top and one battery in the garage. And then the whole community is owner together and steers together on the outcomes that they want to reach. So for us, that's sort of an ideal situation. By the way, this can include small companies by regulation and local players, local institutions and local governments. And very often they are the drivers. It's not necessarily the consumer which is the driver. And what we try to create for them or with them is a structure in which they are able to steer that in a proper way. And yes, they need to become owner as well. That's correct. So we want to leave the model where an outside liquidity provider is going to pay for the assets and then stays owner of that asset way beyond the payback time of that asset, because that's a model that we think doesn't work at all, it doesn't resonate at all on a local scale. So we leave that part.
Agree. Yeah.
So that means that you are basically working on, as in our industry, so IT industry, we call target operating model for those communities, right? So to find out what are the mechanisms, how do we work, how do we contract,
Yes.
how do we manage.
And we have a sort of a workshop for that at the moment. We
Okay.
think that we can do this in a different way in a year or two, whatever, but at the moment we have a workshop because we don't know exactly what will happen, what the goals are of that community, who all the stakeholders are that they already included or that they want to include. We don't know exactly what for them the focus points are. Is it, for example, carbon reduction? Is it price? Is it local solidarity? Or whatever it is. We have already 8 of these type of templates. With them we go through a full day of workshop, and in the end of the day they understand if they want to be a cooperative or a limited company. They understand if they want to be more democratic or more consumerists. They understand exactly how they can steer choices in the future, how they can manage the today, and how they can look back in their accounting to see what all happened. And they can steer that, of course.
Okay.
And that's totally depending on the community and how that happens. In that community, we have smart contracts. These smart contracts are owned by these small companies, so by the cooperative or by the limited company, and all the contracts are directly between these people. So in principle, we, as providers of this whole system, don't see these. We don't see these things.
Okay.
We don't see them. Yeah.
So and who's we? So if someone is interested and wants to be participating or have their own workshop.
Yeah,
What
that's,
contact?
we invite a lot of people at the moment
Okay.
because we need to have experience and more experience.
Mhm.
So I also hope to do one of these workshops together with Kennard, by the way.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
That you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, they can go to Hypha.energy. Hypha is PH.
Mhm.
Hypha.energy, and there you find the website and the offering
Okay.
that we currently have. And we planned workshop at the moment in Norway, Liechtenstein, the Netherlands, and Portugal.
Okay.
And now we're seeing if we can also do this in Italy. Yes.
Okay. So and Kenneth, the target operating model aspect that
Mhm.
you bring also impacts the way of working of the companies that are forced to change their energy behavior due to their grid constraints that they're facing, right?
Yep.
So how is the interplay going on then between what you are doing and the companies, and how much pushback do you receive? So how is that set up?
It's the concept of energy sharing is still quite new, right? The first energy hubs are implemented currently. Business rules on who goes first, because that's the basic level where discussions still are. If we have to minimize our energy usage, who will go first and how will we do it? In the end, you need to have a platform in place representing those rules, and as you mentioned, Edgar, the different strategies or the different needs and lines of freedom included there as well. So people are, for now, in our projects, are mainly forced to work together, to start working together and discover these principles. What happens if, and how will we behave? And for now, they're almost always their friends because they organize themselves and they have incentives to work together. But if you look at individual business interests, of course, there will be conflict. There will be conflicting interests, and you will need to have some ruling or some principles in place that you agree on. So that's also quite interesting. How to what extent can you give an individual the space and to act on his own, and where do the cooperative interests come into play, and how will you manage that? So definitely a basis to work together on and develop these models as well. Yeah, because if you look at behavior from CO2 emission reduction, behavior will be totally different compared to somebody who wants to make a maximum amount of money, or someone who wants to bring balance to the grid. There's these 8 angles. I mean, you need to consider them all.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, do you anticipate then also having those companies having a 3-party contract? So one contract with their energy supplier,
Yep.
and the other one with Distro that manages and optimizes that contract on their behalf.
Yes, indeed. We actually position ourselves in length of the supplier. Also to solve the current, well, you might call challenge in the legislation that an individual is not always allowed to trade by himself. So if you position yourself in length of the energy suppliers, you're able to work together with them, but also solve these issues of exchange. So yeah, preferably work together with them. But then we are changing the system. And, well, I think on the conceptual basis, we're the front runners to discover how this system should work and have invested in infrastructure and IT capacity to already start doing this. So there's also an advantage to it, and invite the current suppliers to tag along and have a look at how it could work and should work. There's not just one party delivering it all towards the future anymore.
So and then coming to a close, so what's your future outlook? Let's say 3, 4, 5 years out. Yeah, do you see yourself only focusing on, as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, the closed distribution grid of a port, going to more the open grids as well? And what's your
Definitely.
ambition, and how do you want to grow?
We will, I think, for a number of years, we will have close commitment to the port business, since that's where we were originated. But the concept and also our aim is to look further abroad, to the Dutch market and also to the international markets as well. That is our ambition, and also getting good feedback on that as well. And reuse the things that we discover in an energy dense area such as the port area, also for other markets and other regions. So we're looking at going big and going global, but we're still new to the market and need to be modest as well, but really ambitious.
So in all you also having then an ambition to go multimodality, to steer between different energy carriers like electricity, gas,
Yes.
what have you?
Yes, one of the advantages of the new energy system to be is that you are able to exchange commodities. Also to be more flexible, because the flexibility in electricity is maybe least of all. But also to give a proper answer to the requests from the market to have substitutes in other commodities as well. We're actually already involved in a project called Starlings within the chemical industry in the Botlek in Rotterdam, trying to match flexibility capabilities, not just the energy usage, but merely focusing on flexibility and how to evaluate that and optimize that as well, multi-commodity. Yes.
Okay.
And there's another subsidy project at European level. It's called Magpie. Maybe you've heard of it, but it's also looking at multi-commodity exchange of energy. So yeah, we're going that way. But since we're a small company, we also need to be aware that we actually focus and keep delivering new functionality to the market as well. There's so much to do.
Okay. So Edgar, and then for you. So what's your outlook for the next 3-5 years?
So we are also part of a European project. It's called Denise, and there are 5 partners of 2 tokens are part of this consortium. We are going to put sensors in solar panels, in windmills and batteries, whatever, and information will be secured already on the level of that sensor. So when it comes out of it, it can function as a crypto anchor. There's a lot of applications that you can build on top of that. What Distro is doing is one of the potential clients of this type of thinking. So we focus on a couple of other areas that we also need to do. So within my story today is we focus on the ownership of the asset and on the governance of that. But you could also do track and trace systems. You can do the management of systems. You can do digital product passporting. There's a whole range of at least 10 to 15 things that you could buy on top of this infrastructure. And this is also why we focus on open innovation and on cooperation with others, because the only way to do this is by creating common standards and understand each other's technologies, so we are able to create open systems where we can all thrive and understand that this is a huge cake and that both legacy players but also new ones have an important role to play.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So thank you. This has come to a conclusion of this podcast. Thank you both participants. Looking forward to hear you in upcoming episodes to deep dive on specific aspects. And if you as a listener have a question to one of the two projects or initiatives, please let us know. We will take it into consideration to create a podcast addressing your questions. Yeah. So, and for now, thank you very much, and until the next time.
Thank you, Jos.
Thank you very much.
That was it for today's podcast. Thank you for listening in, and please subscribe so you don't miss out on our upcoming episodes. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find our contact details at www.twotokens.org.